Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar series. Today, we're going to be covering system setup. In that, we're going to be going over the global settings, company management, general use, list items, attachments, and various functions in there. I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. As I said, today we're going to go over the system setup, the global settings. On the line we have Eddie, myself, Brian. Adam may be joining us a little bit later. He's got a couple other calls, but he said he may join us a little bit later. Just a reminder of the controls on the thing. Upper left, I believe, you have the settings there where you can mute and unmute yourself. Chat, you're allowed to chat amongst the participants or the panelists. However, if you're going to ask any questions to us, which we can answer live during the presentation, please use the Q&A option. That way it comes directly to us and we'll see those questions to answer them directly. There's also the ability to raise your hand during the webinar. By doing that, you click on the raise hand option there. We'll see it and then allow you to ask a question live to the entire meeting. When you're ready to go, you can leave the meeting and it'll exit you out. Okay, so today the agenda is going to be, we're going to go over the global settings and the company setup, adding users and permissions, how you set them up, how you can adjust their permissions. I'll explain both the ultimate and express side on this. List items, we'll go over the various list items that you can add to the program. I'll show you where they appear within the reservations. Greet messages and attachments. Greet messages for your rivals. Some of you may know where they are, some of you may not, but we're just going to review some of these items, as well as the attachments you can send out on the confirmations and or invoices, how you set them up. And finally, I'm going to touch on the change log a little bit and how you can read it. Some people are familiar with it, some people aren't, but just a general review of that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the program, bring the program up here a little bit for you to see it. Hopefully everybody can see the program here. All right. This is going to be, you know, as I said, basically just a training session, just reviewing some of the items there. Some of you may know what they are, some of you may not, but we just want to make sure everybody has a good understanding of the items in here. So first place we're going to go is up underneath the menu, excuse me, in the upper left up there, as that's where pretty much every setting is within the program. We're going to deal here with the system, company, and user setup. Company setup, by entering into this area here, you'll see your company information in here. Now, when you get the program new, you do need to go in here and edit this information, add your company. Your company name will already be there, but you will want to add the other items in there. By clicking on the edit option, you can have your company name, web address, your address, the address of your company. You also have the ability to have a correspondence address as well as a physical address. The physical address would be the address that Google is going to use for all of the mapping functions within the program. Correspondence address would be the address that the paperwork would say, so that your customers could mail you the bills back or whatever they want to do with it. We also have in here phone number, as you can see. Excuse me. The main phone number, toll-free phone number. Also over here on the right side, you have the ability to add a tax ID or in some markets, a TPC number that enables you to have that show up on all your documents. The field value, I'll show you where these appear on your documents as well. This area right here, the latitude and longitude, you do not populate that in there. That is populated automatically once you add your address into the system. Excuse me, I'm having a little cold here. Email address, this is the address that you'll want to place in here. This is where all of the documents will be sent from, and where all of your customers will reply back to. Down below there, we have contracts. These contracts are what goes out on the trip tickets, confirmations, quotes, affiliate driver, time and charges, as well as affiliate customer. Trip contract is what appears on the bottom of all of the trip tickets. I will show you where all of these appear later as we get into there, just letting you know where you set these up. Trip contract is usually information that you want to convey to the driver, perhaps reminders to them what their responsibilities are. Confirmation contract is what goes to your customers. Usually the confirmation contract contains items such as your confirmation policies, pickup instructions, items such as if you have any questions or concerns, please contact us at the following numbers. Quote.
Just a correction there, Brian. The trip contract text typically is for signature evidence of the rider and the responsibilities of the rider, not so much what the driver should be doing.
Yes, there is an option there that you can have a contract for the customer to sign prior to entering the vehicle, just an agreement of what the responsibilities are with that. Down below that, the quote contract, that is if you save a reservation as a quotation, later to be converted to a confirmed reservation. When the original document is sent out, it'll have the quote contract in there. Usually something to the effect of, please remember, this is not a confirmed confirmation. Please contact our office 24 hours or 48 hours prior to the scheduled pickup to confirm the confirmation. Affiliate driver contract is what goes out to a farm out company. Remember, trip contract is what your driver receives, and a affiliate driver is what goes out to a farm out company. Usually something to the effect of, please remember you're representing, in this instance, ABC Limo Company. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us directly. Basically, you're reminding them that the person in the vehicle belongs to you and not to them. Down below there, the time and charges contract is what goes out to the farm out company if by midnight they have not provided you with the final costs and time for that reservation. Usually something to the effect of, our records indicate on the reservation listed above, we have not yet received the total charges. Please provide promptly so that we may pay you accordingly and bill our customer in a timely manner. Down below there, the affiliate customer contract. This is what goes out to a farm-in company. Confirmation, over here on the left side, is what goes to a standard customer. Affiliate customer is what goes to a farm-in company. It may or may not contain the same information. We usually have different cancellation policies with our farm-in affiliates, so we may want to change the wording on that. These areas right here are virtually unlimited. By unlimited space, I mean they have 15,000 characters. And what that means is if you type 15,000 characters in there, remember your customers are going to receive about 3 pages worth of documents. So as you add more in here, you are able to scroll down and see the various things. Over on the right side, you have the ability to add global contract, alternate contracts. The ones that we see on the left here are what we call our basic or default contracts. The ones on the right enable us to add different contracts, such as a wedding contract, By clicking on the add option, you're able to add these in here. In this case, I'm just going to click on the edit. In here, I could have different cancellation policies, different confirmation terms. Wouldn't necessarily need arrival instructions at an airport for a wedding, but this enables you to then have different wording for different contracts. And inside of the reservations, you are then able to select which contract you want to go out with that reservation. And I'll show you where that is also. Also in here, inside the company setup, we have credit card processing. This enables you to process credit cards directly from the FASTTRAK program, as well as doing reconciliation if you're using one of our integrated providers, such as Chosen Payments or Century Business Solutions. And by that, I mean you can look at your gateway and reconcile your charges for the day compared to your receipts that you also have posted. In here, there's several options: PayFlow Pro, Authorize.net. Information is entered in there, and then you're able to charge directly from the program, both in a reservation or invoices, as well as do pre-authorizations. Company logo allows you to load a logo into the program, which then you can mark to be shown on confirmations, trip tickets, or invoices. Again, I will show you where those settings are to whether they're enabled or not. But in order to load the logo, you're just going to click on the Browse button, browse to where you have the logo located, and upload it to the program. Please note that it does need to have a maximum size of 50 kilobytes with a recommended size of 250 by 100 pixels on there. Okay. If you do have multiple companies within your program, in here, you may select the various programs and add in there. By default, by default, you have 2 companies. Any additional companies are an additional charge. But in doing so, when you assign a customer or a corporate client to a particular company, then their paperwork would say which company they're associated with, as well as all of the invoices. You can mark one of them as being primary by selecting the Make Primary. And what that means is by default, when you open up a new reservation, that will be the company that the reservation is associated to. Also, going under the menu, System, Company, and User Setup, System Global Settings. This is the area where all of the settings that control the program are located. The way it behaves, what shows on documents, what kind of notifications, internet reservations, and web services, and e-affiliate settings in there. I'll cover most of these tabs. The internet reservations and web services will be addressed in a future webinar, but I will touch on them and show you where they are today. By default, your company will always be set to your local time zone. It knows where you are based upon your address and setup of your company profile. Currency settings, most of us utilize 2 points after the decimal point. Currency symbol, you are able to select which currency is displayed on all of your paperwork. This can also be changed within each customer profile. What that means is if you had a customer that was located in, say, France, you could have his come out in euros or francs or whatever they're using over there, as opposed to what everybody else is being shown as the dollars in there. Web page and document format. This is basically what your customers will see when they log in online, as well as the documents that they receive on the paperwork. Down below there, we have changelog email address. This email address needs to be populated in there. When you get the program freshly, it will not have that in there. What this is in the program, we keep track of all of the changes that go on to every reservation, as well as customer profiles, corporate profiles, invoices, and other items. These changes are logged And again, I said I will address where those can be seen from within the program, either reservation specific or general list of everything. But periodically we do dump that log so that it does not clog up the program. On the 1st and 15th of every month, it will send you a CSV file of all of the changes that have been deleted out of the system. And what that does effectively is if your customer decides to call up 6 months from now and has questions about a reservation, you still have access to all of that information in that file as sent to that email address. Down below there, we have our emergency outage data backup website. The information and data of this FASTTRAK program is not stored on our servers, nor is it stored on your computers. It is stored on the Microsoft Cloud platform. And what that means is that effectively it's stored in more than one place. They have access to it. However, in the highly unlikely event that Microsoft does have a total failure, we are backing it up at another location. The address is this URL, and the password is the password that you enter here. You do not need to memorize these. These are emailed to you every night at midnight with that address and that password in there. Remember, this does not need to be an overly complicated or secure password, as this is merely a snapshot of all of your information. So again, in the highly unlikely event that Microsoft had a total failure, you would have access to be able to get to your information and still function on a daily basis. Over here on the right side, a couple of general settings. We do have themes within the program. I can show you where those are that enable each person to change the background colors on the dispatch grid there. However, if you don't want anybody to be changing anything around, you do have the ability to go in here and lock it by selecting any one of these. And effectively, nobody can change the background colors of the main dispatch area there. Mapping include that second address there when mapping addresses. Flight tracking. We are integrated with Flight View, Flight Explorer, as well as Flight Stats. Both Flight View and Flight Explorer are third parties that you do need to get a subscription with for them. Their prices do vary. We can provide you information on how to get that information from them to set up an account with them. Or we also do offer Flight Stats directly through us, which enables you to track flights, verify the flights. Also, if you are using the flight tracking and verification, this is also available to the driver through the driver app, as we discussed the other day in the webinar, as well as to the customer through the online portal. That information is transmitted to them. I can let Eddie address the price on that real quick, or would you like to wait till the end?
The price on the Flight Stats is $65 per month. If you look at the third parties, one is at $55 for the Flight Explorer, and the Flight View is very expensive, between $220 and $240 a month. It really depends on the contract you kind of want to work with them, but ours is reasonable based upon the price of Flight View. So just evaluate that. If you're using Flight View now and you want to save some money, you can. If you prefer Flight View or Flight Stats, which I will admit, Flight View is 99% accurate, Flight Stats is about 96% accurate. So if that differential makes a difference to you, then obviously stick with Flight View.
Okay. So there are a couple of settings in here on how it verifies flights. There is a manually verify within the reservation. There is a automatically verify on saving of the reservation, or there is an option to either manually save or automatically save. Those are settings that affect how the reservation behaves when you try to save a reservation that is a flight arrival. Underneath documents, we have many settings in here. Keep in mind that most of the settings that are within the program are located within the global settings. These basically cover how the program behaves, what displays, what doesn't display on all documents. So remember, if you need to make any changes, chances are all of the settings are located back in here. We have a couple of different ones here. We have customer confirmation options. Reading through these, it just basically describes what would show or not show on all of the documents that go out. Items such as trip notes or preferences, you can either hide or show them from the customer, as well as what displays, whether the passenger or cell phone number displays there. Farm out confirmations. This is what goes out to the farm out affiliate. When you send it to them, the paperwork that is displayed to them. You can show trip notes, preferences. Affiliate notes are an internal note option within the reservation. Keep in mind that this affiliate notes is never displayed to a customer. It is something that you would want to display to a farm out company, maybe reminding them that they need to collect for this reservation or something specific about the customer perhaps. Affiliate cost. This is not your cost associated with the reservation. This is agreed upon cost that the affiliate has said that they would do the job for you. And by entering that into the reservation, that would display on their paperwork. It also, that amount gets transmitted to when you do your costing and final pay on that as far as the pay for the affiliates. Different information down in here. There is one setting below that as far as the affiliate, e-affiliate, when you send out to an e-affiliate, depending upon what you want to display to them or not display to them. Remember the top part up here is printed or emailed documents. The one down below in the middle here is for the e-affiliate when you send it to them. Trip ticket options. This is what is displayed to your drivers, the trip ticket. As you'll notice also here, you do have the ability to rename that ticket. Various markets have different requirements that they have to label it something else, such as a trip docket or some other trip form or whatever they need to do it. You are able to do that here, which then changes the name of that document when it is sent out to the driver. Various things in here show reservation book date and initials of agent. This is required in several markets that they do have to have who booked it and the date that it was booked. You can have that display on the trip tickets by selecting the option there. You also have the ability in here to hide your rates from your drivers if you wish to by selecting the hide charges on trip tickets. They will not see how much the rates are that you're charging your customers. Or you can just simply display totals only if you don't want them to see the breakdown of how you get to everything. And again, various options in here, such as customer name, you can hide, you can show the vehicle plate and tag number, again required in certain markets, ordered by info. Airport display, you have the ability to control what that shows there. Down below there, we have what are called default customer profile document options. What these mean is when you are adding a new customer into the system, these are the default settings that will be automatically set within their profile. Keep in mind, any of these can have an override within the customer profile. For example, if you had one customer that wanted to see detailed charges, by default, the new customer would have that. But if a different customer, you did not want to display any charges, within their profile, you have the ability to override that by selecting the other option in there. Same thing with trip tickets. This is by default what shows up on trip tickets to the drivers. Keep in mind that display credit card information does not display the entire credit card. It merely displays the last four and I believe the first four, as well as an expiration date on it. so that the driver could confirm that the card that is being given to them or that they are signing for is the one that you have already authorized for them to pay with that. Invoice, this again is how the invoices are displayed, what shows up on them, whether they see summary charges or detailed charges. Trip invoice estimate allows you to hide discounts. Over on the right side here, we have request for time and charges. Again, this is if you send it out to another company, a farm out affiliate, by midnight the night of the job, it will send them that request. Remember that document or the contract that we had underneath company setup. You can have it go out automatically. You can have it send out daily, every other day, or once a week. And you can have it stop sending after a certain amount of time if you want to. Document delivery is how the documents are sent to your customers. You have the options in here to send an HTML, which is a body of it, or as an attachment as a PDF, or you can have it send both as a PDF and an HTML. Keep in mind that this can be changed within a customer profile. If you had a customer that said, I cannot receive HTMLs behind my firewalls at the office, you could switch their profile over to PDFs if that was required. Quotation, this just lets you change the label, much as you could with the trip ticket on the quotation. Miscellaneous document options, what shows, does not show, how you want it to show. Confirmation trip ticket, various settings there. There are two things in here. You can change, currently by default it says pickup time and drop off time. You can change that to say something else, scheduled pickup time, scheduled drop off. These just allow you to change the wording on that, and I will show you where those are. Reservation. These are all of the settings associated with reservation. Up here at the very top, hourly rates. By default, this will say additional charges 1 and additional charges 2. These are what show up inside of the reservation as far as the base rates go. It also enables you to change it on the documents in both the confirmations, trip tickets, as well as invoices. By default, it will say additional charges 1 and additional charges 2. Some people utilize these to just relabel those instead of generic additional 1 and 2. Zone fixed rate pricing lookup on the reservation form. This will really be addressed once we get into the pricing webinar, as well as the zones and geo pricing in there. But auto-populate zone based on city values, that will be explained in detail in the pricing webinar. Enable geo pricing. This enables you to set up geo pricing within the program and prioritize zone pricing based on postal, city, and state.
Brian, what is geo pricing?
Geo pricing is the ability to set up pricing based upon different parameters, having mileage and or time as your base, as how it's calculating things, as well as establishing base rates in there. And then adding on additional, say you want to give them 60 free miles, and then every mile after that has a different rate to it. Or the first 60 minutes can be a certain amount, and then we start charging per minute after that. This is enabled inside the reservations to be able to do pricing. There are several functionalities of it that enable you to get pricing anywhere on the planet or within your defined pricing areas. Reservation options. These are just, again, settings on how things behave and what they do. Require a user to enter who confirms every reservation once it's confirmed. Basically, what that means is if I change the status of a reservation to confirmed, it's going to ask me to enter my name into it so it knows that I am the one that did it, or more likely who I spoke to on the phone when I confirmed that reservation. Require a user to enter a reservation note every time a reservation is modified. What that does is if I go into a reservation and change it from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it's going to force me to add a note why I changed it from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Auto select available commission agents. If you have commission agents set up within the program, it will automatically select them to be added to the reservation. Otherwise, you have to manually select every time you want to add that commission agent to it. If you have taxes that you add on to reservations, and again, this is set up within the pricing, both the Geo and the standardized point-to-point pricing. If you have one tax that is added on to all reservations that you want to make sure is automatically selected, you would select that option there and the tax would automatically be added on to the reservation. Some places that have multiple taxes probably don't want to use this as they're selecting which one applies to each reservation. Some of them I normally recommend people to select, such as the prompt to confirm pickup time on new reservations save. Essentially what that does is when I save a reservation, a window will pop up in front of me saying, are you sure you want to confirm this for Saturday, January 19th? And you say yes or no. It's basically just a stop to make sure you have not made a mistake on it. Prompt to confirm pickup time when it is modified. Again, if I change the time on a reservation, it's going to prompt me to make sure I wanted to do that. Again, this helps eliminate mistakes. If I accidentally change it, I can still have the opportunity to say, no, I did not mean to do that. Force selection of an ordered by contact. Within the customer profiles, there are the ability to add contacts, both in the customer profile or the corporate billing profile. Some will have one contact in there, some will have many contacts in there. What this is doing here is it is forcing the reservationist to select who called to book that reservation prior to saving the reservation. Again, this is a good benefit. It helps eliminate emails not being sent to proper people. It also helps if they are set up to do any online reservations through the corporate profile, which enables them then to be able to see those reservations that you have entered for those. Do not send booking emails to contacts unless set up as ordered by. This is generally an option that I suggest people select. If you do not select this, it will send to all of the contacts within the customer profiles. Under most circumstances, it only needs to go to one or maybe two if they're selected to be copied. So you most likely will select this option here. Apply discounts before calculating taxes. This is basically a calculation method that if you have a discount within the reservation, it's going to determine whether it's going to apply the discount before the taxes or if the taxes are calculated after the discount is set to that reservation. Do not default addresses on new bookings for customers marked as affiliates. This is normally the general setting here. And what that is doing, under a normal customer, when I book a reservation, their default address will be populated into the reservation. With most affiliates, we do not need their business address populated into the reservation. This just enables you to not have that come in there and have a reservationist accidentally leave that in there with misinformation in the reservation. There are 4 categories down below here: categories, sources, and types. These are set up within the list management, and we will address that. This is just setting whether you want to require those selected prior to saving a reservation. Many companies require that their agents select trip category and trip type before saving the reservation. Those are basically descriptions of the reservation, both helping with the dispatch as well as conveying information to a customer and driver as to what kinds of reservation this is. And I'll explain those when we get into that area. Booking source, booking category, you can also require those. These are all reportable fields. Keep in mind that trip category and trip type are the only ones that show up on documents. All four show up within a reservation, but the top two are mostly reportable fields. Show passenger name, first name, last name. These are preferences, whether you want first name, last name, or last name, first name. 0 charges on reservation cancellation. What that does is when I cancel a reservation, it will automatically zero out the price of that reservation. This is utilized for some people to not possibly misreport not revenue, but in some of the reports that are based upon reservation dates, the value would still be in there. Keep in mind, if you cancel it, it will zero it out. If the customer later calls back to uncancel it for one reason or another, the price will be gone and you will have to re-enter it into the reservation. Require credit card when collection method is credit card. This requires the booking agent, reservationist, to enter a credit card prior to saving the reservation. Auto-populate departure time on bookings. What this does is by saving a reservation, when you put in the pickup time, it will automatically populate in the departure time if you change the information around. I'll show you where that works. By default, this is normally on, and I would suggest it stay on that way. I'll show you where that affects it in the reservation. Set trip type category to flight type on flight reservations. What that does is when I book a reservation as an arrival or departure, it will automatically set the trip type as arrival or departure, meaning that no further action is required by the booking agent. However, some people will have other things such as arrival as directed, arrival JFK, various bits of information that they might want to convey. However, if you do want it to automatically populate the arrival or departure, you can select that option there. Default pickup and drop-off locations for new reservations. This is not necessarily used anymore because we are now utilizing the Google Mapping. This is an older setting. If you are not using Google Mapping, then this would allow you to select from your venue list various items that you had in there. Prompt if booking date is in the past for a new reservation. Again, the program will allow you to book a reservation for yesterday or last week. Perhaps you forgot to enter it. It was during the weekend and you wanted to enter a reservation for Saturday. You didn't get to the office until Monday. This still will let you do it, but it's going to remind you. It's going to say this reservation is in the past. Are you sure you want to do it? Again, it's also a safety net, as I call some of these things here, so that I don't accidentally book it for last month instead of this month. Autocomplete and reservation addresses. This is part of the Google Mapping. What this does is it enables you to start typing an address or a name of a location, and it'll populate the information into the reservation, so you don't have to have a list of all of your venues or locations within your locality. Default Geo Pricing quote. This is a setting that runs off of the Geo Pricing. What this does is if you have Geo Pricing set up, by changing the estimated drop time of the reservation, it will automatically recalculate the time based upon the distance or time based upon how you have that Geo Pricing set up. Upper right over here, these are general settings of how you calculate time with your customers. These do not come into play with the Geo because they are based upon different settings, but these are running off of the default pricing plans and general pricing plans. Whether you round up by the half hour, quarter hour, whole hour, do not round, we'll do it down to the minute. Driver pay, how you round their pay, same settings on those. You also have the ability to determine how time is calculated. A majority of people will use pickup to drop off time. There is ability to do pickup to return, which is garage time. There is en route to drop off, that is garage to drop off. These are just options that set how you calculate how the bill is then calculated based upon that. So again, if I had en route to return, that is garage to garage time. Over on the right side here, you have the ability to set blackout dates. These dates can then affect different booking methods. They can apply to internet reservations. They can apply to web service portal. If you're integrated with different parties that are sending you reservations, you can block out them on certain times, as well as blocking out in both Ultimate and Express when a reservation is created. What that means is if I set a date of the 17th in here and I applied it to Ultimate and Express, nobody internally would be able to book a reservation. The message would pop up, we are out of vehicles, or it's Super Bowl, or whatever it might be, which then stops people from booking reservations when you've reached your limit with availability. Down below here, we have two separate discounts. We have a discount 1 as well as a discount 2. As you can see, the description can be changed on these. You can set whether it's a percentage or a fixed amount. You can leave these as zeros, which most people will in the general standard discounts to be applied to reservations on a one-by-one basis. This allows you to, in the reservation, put in 10%, 20%, 5%. Or you have the ability to put in $1, $5, $10. If you do not have these options selected, there will be no discount available within the reservation to apply to that reservation. Now there is customer discounts, which are different than these. If a customer had a permanent discount, you do have the ability to add that discount to the customer profile, which would then show up on all reservations. And you can also apply it to various things here. You can also affect driver pay. If I select this option here, it will calculate the discount and then calculate the driver pay if you're using a percentage based on the pay. Delete quotations. What this does is quotations that are more than 90 days past the scheduled pickup time will be deleted. You have the ability to change those things in there. Dispatch, these are general functions within the dispatching area. All of these settings in here, filter driver by calendar, schedule items on dispatch. This is if you are using the calendar function for the drivers as to their availability, what days they are available or not available. Effectively, what that does is if a driver is not available on Wednesday between 5 and 6, he would not show up on the list. However, keep in mind, if you are going to utilize this, you have to set availability for all drivers. If you have one driver that you've set availability for and you go to filter, that will be the only driver that would show up only on his available days. So keep in mind, if you're going to use this, you have to set that up for all drivers. Auto assign driver from in-process reservation vehicles. That is if a driver is already assigned to the vehicle, permanent assigned to that vehicle, and you go ahead and assign him to another one, it will automatically assign the vehicle with it. The setting here, how far back in time it will look. Prompt to set garage and spot times. These are settings that I will show you on a reservation here shortly. You can set a default garage time, meaning that on the driver's paperwork, it will show them that they need to be there whatever amount of time prior to the reservation you are requesting them to be there, and it will show on their paperwork. Default spot time will show up on their paperwork as to when they're expected to be at the location. And there's also a geo-estimated garage time that you can add an additional amount of time on. What that does is it takes into account your location as well as the location of the pickup as set inside the reservation. And then by clicking that option, it will add an additional 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever you want to, so that they will be at the office in the appropriate amount of time. Add reference PO to text messages, highlight affiliate driver assignments on a dispatch grid. Most people will select this option. It just highlights the affiliate driver name in a different color on the grid so you can see those that are affiliates. Do not automatically set status to driver scheduled when assigning a driver. This is an option when I assign a driver. By default, it is going to flip the status to driver scheduled. Most people will not be utilizing this, especially if you're using something, the driver app. By not having this selected, it allows you to work on a schedule all the drivers. Once you have it worked out, then go set their statuses to scheduled, which then enables them to view all of their jobs in the driver app. When a reservation is canceled, display all the future reservations for that same customer. It'll pop up and give you a list of everything. This highlights the reservation when no driver or vehicle has been assigned to that reservation, however minutes prior to that pickup time that you have that. Pickup estimated only. I'll show you what that does here. There's two different columns up here. There's a pickup time and a pickup time. One of them shows date and time. One of them only shows the time. You have the option to only show the time as opposed to the dates in there as well by selecting that. Keep in mind that the grid does allow you to look at multiple days, and it could be possible that you had multiple days looking at it, not knowing which 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. you were looking at. But this does allow you to take the dates off of those times. Set drop-off time to estimate, or set drop time to the estimated drop time when you change the status to dropped. These are mostly affecting billing area. If I have this selected, when I change the status to dropped, it will set the drop time to whatever the estimated drop time is, as opposed to when I actually dropped it. However, if you are keeping up to date with live dispatching, you probably do not want to utilize this option. This would mostly be used for maybe don't have overnight dispatchers or something to that effect. It just sets the time to the current time. Dispatchers to set canceled and excluded from billing. By default, within the statuses, there is an option for canceled. Any person can cancel a reservation. This gives them the ability to select another option that is canceled and excluded from billing. What that does is once you flip it to excluded from billing, it will not show up within the costing area in the billing department. It does show up in the excluded from billing. So this just eliminates it coming into the costing area there for drop jobs. Again, by allowing the dispatcher to do that, it can bypass the billing area. Hopefully the billing area would look in there periodically and figure out why it was canceled. This could be excluded from billing for various reasons. It was canceled 4 days ahead of time, anything like that. Show daily note when opening up the program. Up here at the far top, there is something called our calendar function that enables you to add daily notes into the program. What that does is when I open up the program, that note would pop up. It could be anything such as, remember, we have inspections today, or anything like that. That will always show up. Prompt to confirm status changed if changed 12 hours before pickup. That's basically just telling you that if you change the status too far in advance, say to en route, it's going to prompt you and ask you if you want to do that. There's also the ability, each of the columns within the dispatch grid have labels on them. You have the ability to change those column names if you would like. This does change it globally, so anything you change it in here is going to change it for everybody within the system. To change anything, you just double click on it, type in the name, and it will change the label back on the grid of the main dispatch area there. Right side, these are our statuses. Those statuses are reflected here with the confirmation, scheduled, booked. What this does is it allows you to change the colors of those. If you have a color scheme that you would like to implement, click on the set color, change any of the colors, and that will be the status colors on your dispatch grid. Auto drop jobs past estimated end time. This will automatically drop the reservation, meaning it'll change the status to dropped. You can have it automatically do it at any time of day. Most people that would be doing this would want it automatically dropping at midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning. Again, that comes into play if you don't have live dispatch, keeping the status on the reservations. Highlight modified bookings this many hours prior to scheduled pickup. Over here on the far left side, you will see red in these boxes here. That is indicating to me that a change has been made on those reservations. This is telling me how far in advance I want to be able to see changes. Right now, it is set at the 24 hours. What that means is a job 3 days from now, if I make changes on it, the box will not turn red unless I have it selected to a 72 hours. The red can be made go away by looking at the changes. We'll look at that also. It's just an indicator to the dispatch that perhaps reservationist has made a change on the reservation and they should go look at it. You do have the ability to send a message to the driver that a change has been made based upon the setting of selecting that and the driver having SMS messaging available to them. Financial and billing. These are default settings based upon what you want their invoices to say, as well as collection methods for new customers added into the system. Of course, you can override this in any customer profile. Down below there, you do have the ability to have invoice late payment fees added on to reservations. By selecting these options here, you could say 45 days, 30 days after the invoice has been sent, it will start adding on amounts to the invoices. You can have a fixed amount go on. Every 15 days, it adds $10 or $15, or every 10 days, it does 15%, 5%, whatever you want, as well as change the setting or the label on that. Statement. This allows you to automatically run statements within the program, or you can manually run them anytime you want. By selecting the statement run setup, you can either have it manually, or you can have it monthly, weekly, twice a month, depending upon how you want to do it. By setting those to automatically run, it will automatically generate the statements. Keeping in mind that in the customer profile, you do have the ability to automatically email those out. So if you were generating them once a week or once a month, it's going to automatically send to whoever is set to receive those within the profile. Invoice options. These are just basically the options of what you can display on the invoices, whether you hide zero value items. Maybe you had different fixed items like parking or tolls that had a zero value. And in order to condense that invoice a little bit, you don't want those to show up. You would select that. Show actual pickup. The CSV export allows you to export it out. And when creating single reservation invoices from finalized job areas, set the invoice date to scheduled pickup. That will be addressed when we get in the billing area. Essentially what that allows you to do is reservation was for December 31st. I do not get around to creating the invoice until January 15th. It would set the invoice date as December 31st. It's just a method to create the invoice date the same as the reservation date. Invoice display. These are the options, what will display on invoices. It ranges from rates, percentages, pickup times, drop-off times, in routes, on locations. Anything you want to display can be displayed to the customer on their invoices by selecting any of these options here. Statement options. Most people will exclude canceled invoice from statements, as well as exclude zero balance from statements, zero balance invoice from statements. Basically, if as invoices are paid, they will not show up on the statements. If I leave it unchecked, they will. Same thing with canceled invoices, they would show up on there. So a majority of the people will select both of these options here. Deposits, automatically email a deposit receipt upon creation. If I post a deposit either to a reservation or a customer profile, it will give me the option by default to email them the deposit receipt. You can always turn that off in the customer profile or not send it when you create that deposit. Down below here, reservations to billing. These are settings. If I leave this as 0, well, let me do this. If I set this at 4, what this means is when I drop or change the status of a reservation to dropped or canceled, the billing department will not have control of it for 4 hours. If you leave it as 0, the billing department can have it immediately. This is utilized sometimes to allow dispatchers to continue to make changes to reservations after they have a status of drop. Some people prefer it to go into the billing and then let the billing people to determine what gets changed in that reservation. Auto apply reservation deposits exceeding invoice total. What this means is if, excuse me, if a reservation has a deposit of $500 on it and the reservation ended up being $400, when I invoice that, it will apply $400 to it, take the other $100 and send it back to the customer profile to be used at a later date. Or you can always refund a part of that depending upon your policies, but it does allow it to go back automatically to the customer profile to be used at a later time. Do not move canceled reservations until after pickup date. Just a selection determined by billing whether they want to see canceled reservations prior to their scheduled pickup or not until their pickups are actually made. Driver options, these are the settings for drivers. The FASTTRAK driver app options we discussed in our last webinar. These are the settings, how the app behaves for the driver. Keep in mind, there is that download file there. Employee pay, this basically sets what is shown on driver pay reports. Do you want to hide or show them the amount that you're charging your customers? If you select hide, they will not see how much you charged your customers. Actual hours, that shows how much they're getting paid, how many hours they're getting paid for that. Billed hours as well. Calculate employee pay using both the employee settings and pricing zone settings when both are specified. This will get addressed in detail in both driver pay webinar as well as our pricing webinar. It is just a method to allow you to calculate pay 2 different ways based upon your setup for your fixed point-to-point pricing as well as hourly pricing. Let you change the label there. This allows you to set the work week. What this does, there's an option here to show driver pay hours during driver selection. If you have this option selected, and as you are finalizing out and costing jobs and calculating the driver pay, next to the driver name in the dispatch list, when you're assigning a driver, it will show you how many hours they've already been assigned or driven for that week. If you want to even out pay amongst your drivers, it helps eliminate one driver getting 80 hours and one getting 10 hours. It's just a dispatching tool to make sure pay is being equitably distributed. Notifications, these are the emails as well as the text messages that go out to your customers, drivers, and so on. The emails that are being sent are not being sent through your email client. They're actually being sent through our server. Keep in mind, you can always, up at the upper left, the two brown envelopes, see the email queue to see who it was sent to and when it was sent, as well as what was sent. If you would like to get a copy of those sent to your own emails, you can put your email addresses in here, such as invoices, confirmations, anything I put in there will be emailed to you. A copy of it will be emailed to you. One thing I do suggest everybody does is in the trip delete, put in an email address there. I would recommend probably a distributed email that goes to more than one person. What that means is when a reservation is deleted, a reservation is deleted. It no longer exists in the system. However, right before it deletes it, it will send you a full copy of that deletion, and it'll show you who deleted it. And that way, if you needed to, you could re-enter the information to the program, keeping in mind that most users should not be allowed to delete any reservations. Booking, these are the confirmations. This is what the header says to it. The body below it, you can change any of these as you wish. Confirmations, updated, canceled. There are a couple settings here in the upper left that need to be addressed. If I have the middle option selected, all emails are going out without any interaction from the booker or reservationist. If I have the top option there selected, before any email goes out, it will prompt you, says, do you want to send it or not? And then it will display who you are sending it to. For most people, this would be the setting that I recommend in the beginning, just so they're familiarized with what is being sent and when it is sending out. Keep in mind that even if I said no to it now, I can manually send it out anytime I want to. You also have the ability to send calendar attachments for confirmation emails that your customer could then add to their Outlook or other email calendar that they're using. Right side, we have our pre-trip reminders. This is going out to customers. Heading on it, what you include, driver name or cell number, greeter name if there's one assigned to it, and you can also send vehicle information to that passenger. Down below are the settings of when they are sent. You can select one or all of them. If you are using SMS, it will send a text message to them as well. Affiliates, you can send reminders to affiliates, again, selecting which options you want there, as well as to drivers. You can send as many times to a driver as you want. You can send with an SMS message if you're signed up for the SMS texting. You also have the ability to send scheduled notifications, unassigned, and canceled. What that means basically is if I unassign a driver, it's going to send them a message that says you were unassigned from this reservation or canceled. These are, again, what I call safety nets. Dispatcher may unassign the driver and forget to call the driver because they got busy with something else. At least the driver got a message indicating they were unassigned. In process, these are the status updates, vehicles en route, vehicles on location, going to the customer as well as the passenger. Keep in mind that the on-off settings for these are located within the customer profiles or contact profiles, whether they get them or not. These are merely settings if they are on what is sent to them. You can also send SMS there. Post-trip, this allows you to send a thank you note. Again, you can relabel it anything you want. What that does is when I set a status of a reservation to drop, it will send the passenger or customer a thank you, reminding them we appreciate their business. You can add in here whatever you want. People use this in different ways. Sometimes they'll use it as a marketing tool. They'll turn it on for a while. Have you thought about the upcoming wine tour season or whatever it might be? It's a way to get messages to your passengers or customers to get to them. General, these are just general settings about what goes with our SMS and to who gets them. Include company names. Some markets require a company name be sent on all the SMS messages. Charges to the drivers. These are going to the drivers here. Keep in mind, not to the customer. You can also send messages when they've been scheduled and confirmed to the bookers, all the stuff there. Affiliate. This is the information that goes to affiliates, both farm in and farm out, confirmations and cancellations and updates to them. I would suggest this option be selected here also. Again, this prompts before sending anything. If I leave it unchecked, it will automatically be sending emails to your affiliates. Down below here, this option here, this checkbox, again, another recommended option to be selected. What that does is if I have assigned the XYZ limo company to a reservation and the reservation is either canceled or I take them off of that, it will send them a note letting them know that they've been canceled or removed from that reservation. Hopefully that gets their attention. Again, I call it a safety net. Dispatcher meant to call them, but took 10 calls and didn't get to them. There's the backup there. Quotation. What goes on there? Billing. These are all the labels of what goes on in the billing, the subject lines, the invoices, statements, requests for time and charges. This email address right here is the email address that I discussed in the beginning. This password and this URL will be sent to every night at midnight. You will also receive a copy of all of your future reservations in a CSV form. Again, in the unlikely event that Microsoft had issues, you still have access to all of your information, both by the CSV file and accessing the emergency backup location. This is if you want to receive copies of all of the status updates. Customer options, these are default options. What this means is when I add a new customer, these are the options that will be selected within their profile. Keep in mind that any customer profile, you can override any of the options that are set by default on them. Simple things such as confirmations, cancellations, pre-trip reminders. You can send SMS or the HTML or whatever they want to do. Digital signature. This is a feature that we have, which is integrated with Right Signature, Right. By selecting this in there, it sends a digital signing requirement to the customer, requiring that they sign a document. You will get notification that they have signed it and that they've acknowledged it. Keep in mind that you do not want to send this to every single customer. There is a fee for it. I'll let Eddie address the fee here in a minute. This should only be used for certain things that you are requiring signatures on them, such as the confirmations to get from the passengers. Licensing, this is an integration with the New York TLC that enables you to get licensing information for both vehicles and your employees.
The fees for digital signing is 85 cents per request. So be sure that you don't just collect digital signature for everyone, because every request will cost you money. It obviously will pay for itself if you have someone on chargebacks or on large contracts that just says, I didn't order that, or I'm not paying that. At least you're covered that way, and it can really save you. I know several people that it's already saved $3,000 to $5,000. But again, I've known people too that spend $200 or $300 a month on this thing and just carelessly wasted money. So be careful. We can help you.
Okay. Two other areas I'm going to touch in here real quick because these will be addressed in a future webinar is the internet reservations. These are all of the settings for the online reservations, your website that your customer would be using, as well as settings for new customers, what they can get and not get, which pricing plans are associated online that they can utilize, as well as email notifications that get sent out to the customers. Again, this will be addressed in much more detail in the online reservation webinar. Web services and e-affiliate. This is where you map vehicles if you're going to be doing any e-affiliate work or receiving any web third-party reservations such as Carry or perhaps Transponet. Will be addressed in detail in a future webinar. Okay, I know that took a while in there, but the other area I want to touch on quickly while we're here is the ultimate user security setup. This is where we add our users to the system. To add a user, and it is highly recommended that each user have their own username and password. You click on the Add User option. You type in a username. Please remember, username must be an email address as addressed in the previous webinar. First name, last name, email address there again. What security role they have. These are predefined roles that can be adjusted based upon the requirements. By default, their password is password. First time they log in, they have to change it. You will never know what it is beyond that point, but you do have the ability to reset it. You do have the ability underneath company security, if you are operating multiple companies within the same database, to limit which company each employee is allowed to see. So by leaving it unchecked, the employee could see every single company there. If I had multiple companies and I had a dispatcher that only worked for one of the companies and I don't want him to get confused or her to get confused and see all the other information, I can select that and the only thing they would see on their dispatch grid is that company information. Once I save that profile, I have the ability to go back into it at any time, edit it, reset if they forget what their password is. It'll reset it to password. I can change their roles by selecting the security role. I can also edit their permissions. If I click on the edit permissions, in here you will see a list of what they are allowed to do. This would be a list of what they are not allowed to do. You can add any one of these onto it simply by selecting it and applying. That person now has a role that was not originally assigned to them. I can also delete anything by highlighting it and removing it. What that means is you can customize each individual user's permissions as to what they can and cannot do within the program. Keeping in line with the ultimate user is the WebExpress user security setup. I know we addressed this in the security webinar, but I will also show it here. When I click on the Add option, if it is an existing ultimate user, I'm going to select them from the list, any one of these here. It knows what their permissions are. I want to select FT Ultimate User, select their name again from the list. Now the two usernames and passwords are linked together. Now what that means is if they change the username in one or the password in one, it'll update the password in the other. They are no longer required to remember two separate passwords. Driver user setup. If it's a driver, we discussed this the other day, how to set them up in the previous webinar on the driver apps. But if it's just a driver, you're selecting them adding them to the system. Back underneath the menu, we have list management. List management is a list of all of the options that are available within a reservation. We have all of the airlines populated into here. You may add, if they add a new airline, by selecting a name as well as a code for that and adding it to the system, and it will be available to utilize in reservations. Some people will, as you see in my example here, have multiple airlines with the same code but different descriptions, such as baggage claim, curb pickup, domestic, international. They will still track because they are still utilizing the same airline code, but it enables you within the reservation to indicate it's a baggage greet or a curb pickup or domestic or international. Again, just allowing a little bit more information in the reservation. Airport, we have all of the airports in North America currently populated into the system. You are able to add other airports. Some foreign countries, you may need to add one in here. Just type in the name, airport code. You should put in the address because that helps with mapping if you're going to do any mapping with the reservations. Working through here, trip type, trip category, booking source, booking category. Those are the 4 items we discussed as to make mandatory within a reservation. Trip category is going to tell me what kind of reservation it is. It could be a wedding. Trip type is going to tell me a little bit more about it. It could be a as directed wedding. It could be a point-to-point wedding. Again, what this does is it provides information to both the driver as well as dispatch as well as customer, conveying to them what kind it is. As we know, a wedding could be as directed. It's going to be out for several hours, or it could be just a straight transfer, providing information to the dispatcher, letting them know that they can utilize that vehicle immediately. Those are reportable fields, as I said before, so I can generate reports. How many weddings did I do? How many proms? How many transfers, airports, so on and so forth. Booking category can be used to just keep track of what category of reservation it was, all reportable fields, as well as booking source. Where did the reservation come from? This is a great way to track marketing as well as advertising dollars. If you run a TV advertisement, every time somebody mentions TV advertisement, select it in the reservation, which then allows you to generate your revenue reports to figure out if that was money well spent. Reservation venue, no longer needed as we are using Google Mapping within the program. You just simply start typing the address or name of the venue and it'll populate it to it. However, if you do need to add lists in here, you certainly can with the add option there. Invoice adjustment type. These lets you adjust the amount of an invoice after it has been sent out to a customer without having to go back into the reservation or canceling the reservation. This will be discussed in detail when we get into the costing and invoicing area. But again, it just lets you adjust the amount of the invoice. Pay item. This allows you to add or subtract pay from a driver at any time, either directly in a reservation without affecting the cost of the reservation, or simply from the wages area by adding a pay item to the driver. It could be as simple as fuel reimbursement. Might be driver did an errand for you and you want to reimburse them for that. You can add that to their pay without having to create reservations for it. Driver dispatch status. This is information that is sent to the driver in the driver app, as well as messages that the driver can send back to the dispatch. SMS messages for passengers. You can set pre-defined messages in here, so your drivers are selecting these when they're communicating with passengers using the driver app. You're not relying on them to type things. You can have things for them to select from. License type. These are items that can be added onto vehicles and drivers. Various things that you can put in their profiles. You can have airport cards, driver's license. If you is part of the New York City Taxi TLC, you can add those in there, and there are reports that we can generate for you utilizing those various items there. You can select how many days prior to the expiration you want to be notified. And as you look down at the bottom down here, you'll see driver license expiration, vehicle license expiration. Those would tell me which items are expiring on those various drivers or vehicles. Vehicle detail field, this just allows you to add different items, information that you may want to have added to each vehicle. That will be, again, addressed when we get to the vehicle and driver setup area where those things are applied. But as you can see, if I hover over the driver license, it's telling me which drivers have items expiring. As you can see, I'm not very good at catching up with drivers. Looks like some of them are over 2 or 3 years old. But it just gives you a reminder to go in there and look to see which items are expiring on the drivers. Those are the list management area in there. Confirmation airport greet messages. These allow you to add specific meet and or greet messages to reservations based upon airline and airport selected within the reservation. As you can see from this one here, if I click on the edit button, right now I have a greet message for LaGuardia, and it applies to these specific airlines here. And what that means is if I select that airport and one of those airlines inside the reservation, this is the message that will show up on both the confirmation as well as the driver trip ticket. Now, if I scroll back down here, this is where this different types of airlines can come into play. If I had an American Airlines baggage greet message for LaGuardia, it may say meet your driver at the baggage claim. Curb pickup, go out door number 3 and look for the blue signs. You can specialize and customize those messages based upon the airport and or airline. Again, if I select which ones it'll be, those will be the ones that'll show up on the reservations. I can have multiple ones based upon the various instructions for those airports. Last area I want to cover here is the email attachment. This is a recently added functionality that we've put into the system. This allows you to upload attachments into the program, which can then be sent on the various emails that go out. If I want to add, I'm going to click on the add button, an attachment name, perhaps in a description. If I wanted to go out on every single confirmation, I would select to go on by default. I browse to the file and upload it. As you can see, once they're in there, I have the ability again to edit or delete those where they go. Now, where those come into play, I'll take a reservation for example here, go to the documents. If I click on the email confirmation, you will see down here, it has that list of all of those available for me. By default, I had the cancellation policy go out. This may be more detailed than you would have in the standard contract that you want to send with them. Or again, it might be a wedding. You want to send the wedding contract. You're going to select that. It could be whatever descriptions of a tour you're giving. You can have those go out with the customers automatically there, or either automatically, or you have the option to select each one of those to go out there. One last thing I want to cover here today, and then we'll get to any questions that we have here. I discussed this red indicator over here. This is indicating to me that changes have been made. As you see, if I hover over it, it will tell me that there was a change on that reservation today. By clicking on the View Changes, it will bring up a list of all of the changes, what has occurred, and who made the changes to the reservation. A lot of these, you can simply look at it and see that it was changed from the 9th to the 16th. Some of these, it'll just say something to the effect of 54 and 0. What you do to determine what that means is you click down here where it says Decode Fields, and it will tell you that the original driver assigned to it was Morrison, and now there is no driver assigned to it. Same thing with the status here. If I click on that, it'll give me driver scheduled to driver confirmed. It lets me know when that occurred. As you can also see, it kept a record that I looked at that change inside that reservation. Now, if I just close it without any further action, it will remain red. However, if I click on the View Changes, and ideally, this is what a dispatcher would be doing, is they would acknowledge the changes. Yes, I see those changes. Acknowledge the changes, and the red now goes away. That now enables reservations or somebody else to make a change to that reservation. If I go back in there and look, I will see who okayed that change and who made it go away. Now, I guess Eddie dropped off here. I think that pretty much covers everything we wanted to cover today. Please remember that at the end, we do have a survey. Please take that survey so that you can be in the drawing for the $50 American Express gift card. Don't forget to do your security updates. Those are the, as addressed in the previous email or previous webinar, describing how you need to change everybody over to a email address. Okay, so I guess we're at the end of this. Is there any questions? Let me see if I have any questions out there. Okay, so that's going to end today's webinar here. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and email them to us. Keep in mind that our next scheduled webinar will be next Wednesday, same time. You can go to our website underneath the webinars tab and go ahead and sign up for that. Hopefully this was informative to you. I know it's a lot of basic settings, but they are important settings, especially when utilizing the program. So hopefully everybody has a good day. Thank you. We'll talk to you later.